Cool. All right. Well, what is up, everybody? It is Maduric, and I'm so excited to be here. So, welcome to the very, very first session of the Wilder Racing Academy. So, I got a really fun session planned. And before I bust into the things that we're going to talk about as far as the techniques and topics for teaching you how to get faster, I want to give a real quick background on how I got into everything. I don't need to take long with this one, but I've been into sim racing for a little over a year. I was not a gamer, and certainly wasn't before Wilder World, but the only thing that did excite me was racing games. So when I found out Wilder World was developing a racing game, I jumped in and really got into racing. I started by getting a very basic rig with a G29, a Logitech G29, and I was playing games like F1, Grid, and a few others. And it's actually about a year to go to the date that I really dove in because iRacing had a Black Friday deal, and I jumped into that world. Played a set of Corsa Competizione and a bunch of others. So I really just dove in to get my skills up because I wanted to understand how to be fast and race competitively when Wilder World came out. So I really have not been a gamer. I have not been into racing but longer than about a year. But, you know, when I jumped in, I quickly found training programs and the people that are good, and I studied the techniques to try to get good quick because that's my goal. And that's my goal for you guys too, is to help teach you what I've learned on techniques to shortcut learning and get faster. So, just really important things to think about, you know, is mindset stuff when you approach anything new. And again, I won't take long in this one, but a mindset thing that I really love about racing or any activity that is timed is that it is so easy to gauge if you're getting better. And that's the thing I love most about racing games and anything for that matter. I got into doing triathlons for a while, and I got addicted to them because it's so easy to know you're getting better. You're just, one day you're you know, this fast, and the next day you get faster, and that's a bonus. And I think you should really celebrate the little wins. And with racing, particularly, little means tenths of a second. Little means hundredths of a second. And so when we're teaching you what, you know, how to get faster, celebrate those little wins because every little bit you do is going to help make you faster on track, okay? So just some little quick background things. I'm not going to get into anything else there because I really wanted to jump in and dive into talking about what we're going to do in today's session. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to jump in and teach you two main topics. We're going to talk about how to learn how to learn the limits of any car so that we know how to be as fast as possible with it. And then we're also going to talk about how to have a plan for attacking every track that you see. So, and then we'll do some, if you guys have questions while I go, feel free to jump in and let me know and I'll answer them. We'll do a little bit of Q&A at the end, and then I'll leave some time at the end for doing some racing too. So what we're going to do is jump in. We are currently on build 5.2. Now, as I load up here, I wanted to talk about why it's really important to learn about learning the limits of any car, okay? So what I'm going to load up here for now just to get started is the Wave-On, and we're going to go to Seaside, okay? But here's the reason why it's important to learn the limits of any car, okay? You don't want to just pick the fastest car and use that, okay? Because the biggest thing to think about is this is a very, very early version of this game. We are still very, very early. With every version that comes out, everything changes. The physics change, the handling changes, and there's new cars that may be better in certain areas, worse in others. So what works today might be totally different on the next build. So it's important to learn and have a process for learning cars, learning their strengths and weaknesses, and learning how to be fast no matter what car it is, okay? In other racing simulators like iRacing, Assetto Corsa, you know, there's different series. Like you might just run MX-5s. You might just race Ferraris. So it's not just about picking the fastest car and always using that. You want to know how to learn to be fast with every car and every update that comes out. So that's what we're going to learn about today. And a perfect example of this is the Wave-On. When the very first version of Midnight in Miami came out, the Wave-On was not good, okay? It was the slowest car, didn't brake good, it didn't handle good, no one used it. Now, in this build, it's pretty much the fastest car there is because of the physics changes they made, because of the handling changes they made. So just keep that in mind, and what I'm going to talk about here is how to learn how to control a car, okay? Now, why do we want to use Seaside? This is a really good track because it's got a little bit of everything. And for what we're going to talk about today, we're going to start talking about braking, okay? If you look at where I'm at here, the start line is here. But what do we have before the start line? A super long straightaway, okay? And we're going to use this to help us test the braking capabilities of the car, okay? And it's also helpful because we have a bunch of different types of turns in this track, and it's not too long, okay? So what we're going to do is go to just a practice. I'm going to load up a few laps here, and we're going to get into the session. So like I said, what we're going to first talk about is braking, and we're going to use a test to figure out how quickly does a car stop, okay? And what we're going to do is also talk about using braking references. This is a really, really important concept because it's something that you're going to use on every track and on every car. It's a strategy and a technique that you use in real life, in every simulator, and so forth. Now, I've never driven a real race car. I don't have a huge aspiration to do it, just because, you know, just because. But I can tell you from all that I've studied and watching in interviews and studying people who are professional drivers, they always have braking references, okay? So, how do we start this off? Let's get started. And what I'm actually going to do is turn around. We're going to go to the beginning of that straightaway, and we're going to show you how to test the limits of this car. And by the way, I am on a steering wheel and pedals. Because I'm not a gamer, I have zero skills with an actual controller. And just to me, you know, using a steering wheel and pedals is always going to be the more fun, immersive way. So that's what I'm on. Okay, so here's what we are going to do. We are going to go to the very beginning of this straightaway, and we're going to make sure that we line up right on the white line because we want to keep things consistent, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is floor it. We are going to go to full speed with NOS, and we are going to stop at a very specific point, okay? When I talked about braking references, if you look on the right here, or in the middle, we have these palm trees, okay? So my braking reference for this test is going to be the very last palm tree in the middle right here, okay? So what I'm going to do, floor it with full NOS. When I hit this palm tree, we're going to slam on the brakes and see how long it takes us to stop, okay? Pretty easy, not anything too secretive here, but you want something that is a consistent test. So when we're testing this out for every car, you always want to do the same thing to know where it's at. So we'll line up to this line. The other thing, the reason why this is good here is because the NOS fill-up station is right at the beginning of this. So we could test this a bunch and just make sure we're always at full NOS. So here we go. Okay, so we're going to slam on the NOS, slam on the gas. When we get to the tree, we're going to stop. Now, we are testing braking, okay? But we could also test acceleration and top speed. Now, if I could go longer, I could figure out the top speed because I'm not going to get to the very top speed of this car. But what I can take note of is what is the speed I reach right when I hit the brakes, okay? And you can make note of that. So let's give it a go. Here we go. So slamming on the gas and the NOS. When we get to this last tree, we're going to slam on the brakes and see how long it takes us to stop. All right. So you could see that I stopped just before or right after this little guy on the bike here, okay? And I actually wasn't paying attention to the speed. I think it hits around 155, okay? We're going to do it one more time and just take note of where we stop, okay? If you want to go super in-depth with it, get an Excel sheet, write it down. But the bigger thing that I always like doing is just getting a general sense of how well a car stops, okay? So one more time, we got enough NOS to do the same test. So we'll get up to this tree. And boom. Okay. So a little bit longer that time, but that's the idea, okay? It's hard to be exact with the tree, but we're just going for a general sense, okay? So that is one test. And so what I want to do now is load up a different car and do the same exact thing, okay? Might seem a little boring, might seem a little tedious, but again, it's something that you're practicing to actually get some feedback and know what are the capabilities of this car in relation to braking, okay? So let's get to a different car. And just for a stupidly, totally different, type of car, let's go ahead and load up the Wummer, okay? So obviously, this could not be a more different car, but it's going to show you the difference, okay? And again, you might find that there's a race series that starts up that's only using Wummers. So you want to know how to drive this car good, okay? So same test, and we're going to see what is the braking capability. Now, if you want to write it down and keep note of it, go for it. But the idea is just to get a general sense. What stops quick, what takes longer to brake, and so forth, okay? Because the next thing we're going to talk about is cornering and turning. Races are won and lost on the turns, okay? It's easy enough just to hit the gas and go as fast as possible in a straightaway. I've talked about that before, and no secret there. But understanding how to be fast through turns is where the races are really won and lost, okay? And braking is going to be the biggest component to say, hey, how do I enter this turn? Can I brake just for a second right before the turn? Do I have to brake a lot longer? So, same test. We're going to take this car, turn it around, this tank. And the other thing that you could practice, when you're out here just kind of getting back and forth is seeing how quickly does the turn respond, how quickly does the car respond to turning, okay? That's something we'll do a little bit more in depth in another session. You could already see I just slammed in the wall here. Okay, so same test. We line up to the line right at the beginning of it. And here we go. Full NOS, full gas. When we get to the tree, we're going to slam on the brakes. There we go. One hell of a lot longer, okay? So you get the idea. The Wummer brakes like shit. We know this. Obvious. But again, it's something for you to do as a test to get a sense of how well a car brakes, okay? Now, when you get into different cars that are more similar, like let's try it with the Ferrari or the Wambo, it's going to be a lot less of a difference, but you'll still notice a difference if you do this, all right? And again, what you're trying to do is just get a very general sense of the car's capabilities as it relates to braking, okay? So we'll go to, let's go to the Wambo, and then we'll start talking about another topic related to this, okay? So Seaside, throw up some laps, and we'll do a test with this one. And then what we're going to do is start talking about braking as it relates to cornering and turning as well, okay? So last car here for now. Again, if you really want to get good at this, do it with all the cars, or when they release a new car, use this as a test because it's going to help you understand what's going on. While this is loading, anybody have any questions so far? I got so many things going on my screens that I don't get a chance to look at the chat. All right, almost there. Cool. Load up on NOS, load up on fuel, and let's give this one a test and just get a general sense of how well this car brakes. All right. All right. The other thing, too, to mention is that right now I'm on a wheel and pedal setup, all right? Now, more advanced simulators and games have a lot of room with the braking in terms of full brake or a percentage of, okay? Now, for this game right now, I'm pretty sure that most people use a controller rather than a wheel and pedal setup, okay? And if that's the case, your braking is just going to be on or off. It's going to be 100% on or 100% off because you just have a button, you know, that usually is used. You might assign it to one of the buttons in the back that has some play to it, but for the most part, when you brake, you're going to be all on or all off. So for a quick tip with people that have steering wheel and pedals, what I use right now is I set my braking pressure or my braking responsiveness to pretty much be 100% with just a barely little bit of a touch, okay? I have what's called a load cell pedal. It takes a lot of force to actually fully push it down, but that's because other simulators are really responsive to all the nuance that you could have with a real good brake pedal. But again, for this game right now, it's pretty much just on or off seems to be the most effective way. So if you are working on your own setup, experiment with how responsive both your steering input is and your brake is if you're on a wheel and pedal setup, okay? All right, here we go. So we can also pay attention to the miles per hour on the right, but more importantly, when we get to this last tree, slam on the brakes and see what we get. Okay, so a little bit after the stop sign there, almost about the same as the wave on, okay? And honestly, I didn't even catch the miles per hour, but you get the idea, okay? So that's the first thing you want to get out there and practice. If there's a new car or if you want to learn a different car, see how quickly it brakes when you get to a basic speed. It doesn't have to be full speed. You just want something that are consistent brake markers, okay? Sweet. Okay, so the next thing let's talk about is the turns that are coming up. Now, I'm not going to spend much time on this, but we do want to talk about the driving line, okay? I believe in the next build they were talking about having an option to turn on the actual driving line guide, okay? But I'm going to keep this really, really simple because it you know, in general, it is. The driving line is going to be the most optimal line you could take through a turn, okay? It's going to be the line that makes you the fastest way to get through it, okay? Now, I'm going to pass up this first line here, that first one. Okay, let's take this as a turn. I have a left-hand turn coming up. The very, very basic idea is the optimal driving line is going to be get on the opposite side of the turn. If I have a left-hand turn coming up, I want to be on the right side of the track, okay? That's going to allow me to take the fastest line and hold the most amount of speed. If I'm on the left side here and I have a left turn coming up and I'm going full speed, I'm going to go flying right into this curb. I'm going to be going too fast to make it through that turn without stopping a lot, okay? Versus I have a left-hand turn coming up, so I'm going to make sure I'm all the way on the right, okay? So now, when I take this turn, I could come at it at an angle that I could point and hold a lot of speed, okay? The other thing to mention about the driving line is the apex of a corner. Whenever we take a turn, we want to be as close to the inside of that turn as possible. That is going to be the shortest distance between 2 points, between the turn, okay? So you want to make sure that, number one, you're on the opposite side of the way you're turning, and when you do turn, make sure you hit the apex of that turn as close as possible. And I can't tell you how literally every little bit closer you can get without hitting it makes a world of difference, okay? There is a infograph or a little picture I just found actually before I started this session. Let me call it up here. Where are you at? Here we go. Okay, so this is a little cool thing here that talks about the different racing lines, okay? And I won't spend too much on this, but if you look at it, the top left is the classic racing line, okay? When you're taking basically a 90-degree turn, you want to be on the left side if it's a right-hand turn, hit the apex so you're hitting as close as you can to the inside, and that will give you, as you can see, a bigger curve. You could hold more speed than if you came here and just did this, All right. The other turn that's really important in this, as far as a game, is going to be the connecting linked curve. This is also usually called a chicane or a compound turn. Now, this does happen a lot in the tracks that are in Wilder World. And as you can see here, your racing line when you approach this is not as aggressive for this turn. You're not quite hitting the apex of this first turn because it's more important to be in a good spot for getting out of the end turn, okay? We're going to talk about that more in a second when we get into talking about tracks. But I just wanted to show this and illustrate it because it's a quick example of where you want to be when you approach a turn, okay? But again, just keep it simple. Main idea, if you have a turn coming up, get on the opposite side of it to make that turn, okay? So now, what we want to talk about braking as it relates to the turns, okay? There's three things that you want to be considering for every single turn, okay? Number one, can I take the turn at full speed without letting go of the throttle and without braking? If I could do that, great. That's obviously the fastest way to get through it. If you can't do that, can you just let go of the gas and not brake? In other words, coast. Can I, at some point, let go of the gas and coast through the turn without braking? Because braking is going to slow you down more, okay? If you can't do that, then obviously I need to brake, but how much do I need to brake? Where do I need to brake? And for how long? Okay? So for every turn, those are things you're going to want to ask yourself and test out, all right? So I know that I have a left-hand turn as my first turn, okay? And actually, if we look at this, our starting line is right here. So turn number one is actually this guy here. So I'm at the straightaway here. So this is actually turn 13. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 13 turns in this track. So turn number one is a left-hand that has, I don't know, maybe call it 70-degree angle here, okay? But turn number two is a hard left-hander 90-degree turn. So this turn here, we're going to figure out how fast we can go. But since we're over here, this is our turn we're going to worry about. So we're going to first see, can I take this turn at full speed without letting go of the gas? So let's give it a shot. Again, I'm going to come at this full speed, full gas, full NOS, everything. I'm going to let go of my NOS at about the street light up here. And here we go. So there's the turn, no problem, hitting that at full speed. Now, right there, obviously just nailed the sidewalk, okay? So that's where that's actually turn number one. But turn 13 is more of a bend. And obviously I don't need to let go of the gas there. But to get ready for turn number one, I then need to ask myself, okay, I know I can't keep full gas on for turn number one. So let's see if I could take it by coasting and see if I can make it through the turn, hit the apex, and get in alignment for the next turn. Okay, let's fill up on NOS here and do the same test. All right, there we go. Okay, so let's get some speed. What we're going to do is let go of the NOS at the light, and then we're going to now look for some braking references or coasting references, okay? So coming into this, off the gas, boom, no problem. Okay, you see how fast we took that turn? I did not need to brake. All I did was let go of the gas, and I was able to fly through that turn. Now, we're going to talk about references, because this is, again, a very, very critical thing that you're going to literally do for every single turn, okay? When I'm coming up on this turn, there's two things I can look at for braking references, okay? And what you want to do is start by using the ones that's further or closer to the turn. So I have a sign up here on the right at the bus stop thing. That's something I could try to use as a reference. And if that doesn't work, in other words, I don't make the turn, I could use this stoplight here on my right as another reference, okay? So again, in this case, the reference is not braking, but letting go of the throttle, okay? Keep in mind, this changes for every single car because every car is going to handle differently. It's going to have different limits. And in this case, how fast it turns while going fast or on gas, it's going to differ. Every car will handle differently, okay? So let's try this out. What I'm going to do first is use this sign as a braking, as a coasting reference, okay? And we'll see if we can make the turn. So at that sign, I'll be hitting it at full speed. We're going to let go of the gas and just see if I can make it through that turn while hitting the apex, all right? Because again, it's more important to hit the apexes and get ready through the next turn than it is just to fly through it without paying attention to what's coming up. So let's load up on some NOS. Okay, here we go. So we're going to let go of the NOS at the light. We're going to let go of the throttle at the sign and see if we can hit that apex through that turn. Again, lining up on the right side. NOS is off. Here we go. And off. Oh, okay. You could see there that I couldn't make it. I had my wheel fully turned and I was not able to make it. Okay, so mental note, that sign is not going to work as my reference point. So the next one we're going to do is going to be this light here and see if I let off the gas there, is that enough for me to make that turn, okay? And hopefully you guys get the idea. It's just a matter of trial and error, and this is the practicing side of it all. Not the sexiest thing, but believe me, it pays off when you're really ready to start improving your lap times. And to make note of that, you know that you have on the right of the screen here the lap counter. Use that to let you know how you're doing. Are you improving or not? Okay, even if you want to do it so that you know you only start your test when the lap counter hits a certain second mark. But the best thing to do is if you're doing laps, use the delta. In other words, the last lap will go green if you're faster, red if you're slower, okay? So here we go. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to let go of the throttle when we get to the stop sign on the right, or the stop light, and see if we can make the turn. All right. Off the NOS. Off the gas. Beautiful. There we go. So there you can see that I made that turn fast without using the brake, coasting, and now I have the light as my reference. So now I have the plan of how to attack that corner with this car on this track, okay? We'll do one more, and then we'll talk about the track breakdown. So the next turn is going to be a hard left, okay? Keeping in mind that we are coming at this pretty much full speed, okay? We're going really fast. We're obviously coasting, but we are still going really quickly, okay? But we have a very hard turn to make. So it's a left-hander, so I want to make sure that I am at the right side of the track here, right by the curb, okay? So that I could come and hit this corner like this. Here's my apex. The one nice thing about 90-degree turns is that it's very obvious where the apex is, okay? When you have a long, drawn-out turn, it's not always obvious where the apex is. But with 90-degree turns, it's pretty darn obvious. The tricky thing is that since it's dark in these games right now because it's at night, you got to make sure you take time to look at the track and say, here's that apex. Because when you're coming in fast, it's not as easy to see. Okay, it's not lit up or anything like that, but you got to know that right there is the apex. So that's what I'm trying to hit as close as possible and at an angle that I could actually make this turn and continue going this way so that I don't have to turn more, okay? All right. Hang on one second. Now what we're going to do is come at this full speed. And before I get into that, though, let's take a look at what we have for braking references. If it's not pretty obvious, I got these palm trees on my right, okay? These are going to be perfect markers for braking references, okay? So the first thing we'll do is maybe use this second to last, or again, you always want to try to go as far back as possible. So we're going to use this last palm tree as my braking reference point. So when I hit that, I want to hit the brakes and see if that slows me down enough to make this turn. So let's get out here. Again, the nice thing about doing it this way is that you could just use the NOS to get where you're going quick. You could refill and get after it. Okay, quick fill up. Now what we're going to do is, we know we could take that first turn by coasting. Second turn, we're going to stop or hit the brakes at the last palm tree and see if we can make the turn. Here we go. All right, here we go. Off the gas. Last palm tree break. All right. Not bad. That wasn't too bad. So we pretty much were able to take that. I almost slowed down a little bit too much because I held it for too long. The other thing I've noticed in this game is that if and when you need to use the brakes, it's literally just a touch. You know, you're not holding them for long unless there's a couple turns in some tracks. I think like Meridian Surge, you really need to brake for a while on one of them. But for this turn, I really just need to touch the brake quickly, and that slows me down enough. Like, boom. Now I could slow down, make that turn, get right back on the throttle to make that turn, okay? So anyways, that is a couple of strategies to learn braking, and then also learning the limits of cornering, okay? You're gonna use that same process for literally every turn on every track, okay? Keeping in mind the racing line, be on the opposite side of the road for where the next turn's coming up, and just keep figuring out for every car, how close to the turn can I get without braking? Do I need to use braking? Can I coast? Can I take it at full speed, okay? Any questions on that? Let me know if everybody's good out there, and I'll move into the next topic. But before I do, let me know if you guys have any questions or if everything's still sounding good. All right, I'm going to go fill up with NOS, and I'll show you the next thing in a sec here. Cool. Thanks, Uli. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is putting together a plan for each track, okay, on how you're going to approach it. Now, we've already talked about some real basic concepts, which in itself is a way to put a plan together. But what I want to look at, let's fill this sucker up. Okay, sounds like we got another hot mic out there. Okay, full of NOS. Okay, so in this view here, we're going to look at the map, okay? And here's what we want to do when we want to analyze and break down a track. What's really important to understand is what are the most crucial turns in a track, okay? Now, every single turn is really important, every one of them. But there are ones that are more important, okay? The most important turns are the ones right before a very long straightaway, okay? So when I look at a track, I want to ask myself, what turns come right before the longest straightaways? And obviously it's this one right here, turn number 12 on this track, okay? Why? Because how you come out of a turn is going to compound for the straightaway. So in other words, if I have a car and I brake throughout this turn, and then maybe I get on throttle right here. So I've passed the turn, and right here is where I get back on throttle, okay? Versus another car that takes the turn and is able to get on throttle right here at the apex. Now, it might not seem like a lot, but I guarantee you every single little bit makes a big difference, because keep in mind, for this very long straightaway, the second car will be on the accelerator for longer, and it'll have that much longer to continue accelerating, okay? And this is a really good illustration of if you're racing somebody and you're new, or you just see someone that continues to get away from you and you have no idea how they're so fast, and you just see them in the distance and you don't understand how they catch up, how you can catch up to them. It's usually because they are getting on the accelerator quicker, and the amount of acceleration they do compounds over time, okay? Again, if you just want to keep it simple, just know that the quicker you get on an acceleration, the longer it's going to compound. So when I look at a track, I'm going to say, what is the most important turn for me to really make sure I nail? Because that's where I can make the most amount of time up. And in this case, it's this turn right here. And it's not just this turn, it's how I come into this turn, okay? In other words, this is almost like a compound turn, okay? It's not quite, because you do have a little bit of a straightaway here, but this is actually, you could take this as a big arc as far as the way your car goes, okay? So this is the most important turn, but this one's almost equally as important because it's going to set you up for how you make this turn, okay? Now, when I look at this, everything else is very much a 90-degree turn. And we have this one here, which we already talked about. We know that we can hit this at full speed, so this isn't as big of a consideration. But most of the other turns in the track are 90 degrees, okay? So I'm not as concerned about those as I am this one here, and making sure that I really maximize this turn, okay? So let's jump into that turn, and we're going to go out to it. Now, the other, oops, I do not want to quit, no. So the other thing that I like to mention about the racing line, as a side note, is that even once it becomes available, or if you play other racing games and they have a driving line, it is a good guide to help you understand it if you have no experience with understanding racing lines. But it's also not something that I would say it's good to get used to using, okay? Because the racing line is going to be the fastest line when everything is all well and good. And let's say if you're doing a time trial, if you're qualifying for a race, which doesn't happen in Wilder World yet, but if you play other racing games, you qualify before a race happens. When you qualify by yourself, you could afford the ability to always take the ideal driving line. But when you're in a race, a heads-up race with somebody, and somebody are side and side together, somebody is going to have to compromise the ideal racing line, okay? So you still want to understand what is the best and quickest way to get through the track or that turn given the circumstances. So you're not always going to be able to take the ideal racing line, okay? Yes, Lutein, thanks. I know. So that's something that's really great, though, because like I said, a lot of people just don't understand what is the ideal racing line, and having that guide will help you. But it is important to know if I can't take the racing line because I'm competing with somebody and I'm neck and neck, what's the next best thing, okay? So anyways, coming up on this turn, we have a turn here. We have a compound turn here, a little bit of a chicane. So, we have this turn here. What we want to do to get ready for this one, we want to take a hard right. We want to get to the right side of this median because that will allow me to take the widest possible line. So again, the next turn I have is a left-hander. So I want to get to the right side of the track. And here, I want to hit the apex like this, but I also want to come out to the point where I come to the right side and it can approach this one. This is the turn that's most critical, okay? Because again, it's going to be right before the longest straight. So the sooner I can get on my accelerator and get on the NOS, all that speed will compound the whole time I'm on the straightaway, okay? Hopefully that makes sense, but the next thing is to sit there and practice this and figure out how fast can I take this, okay? And this is what I mean by having a plan for each track. Identify the turns that come before long straightaways. All right, coming up on this, we're gonna come back a little bit and just see how quickly we can take this. All right, coming up on it, okay. So, we're gonna do a break, we're gonna hit this line, get to the right side of this median. All right, full gas. I can let up a little bit, now I'm full speed. I could take this full on, boom. So I know that I can get through that corner with full power. Okay, I don't need to brake. I don't need to coast. If I hit the turn right before that correctly, I can hit this turn at full speed and get on my NOS before I hit the apex. Okay, if you notice, if I position myself right, I can hit the apex and even get on the NOS before it because I have a really wide arc I could take here. So that is going to be the way that I can optimize my line. Okay, let's do it one more time. And again, it's going to be different for every car and track combo, all right? And what you're doing is just developing the muscle memory when you're practicing, because when you're racing, your heartbeat is, you know, is up there, your focus is dialed in, but you got to develop the muscle memory to know what to do, when to brake, how much to brake, and so forth, how hard to turn, and so forth. All right, one more time. All right, on the NOS, boom. Oh, a little bit of a hit, but I could have maybe hit that better. So you get the idea. So when I look at a track, I ask myself, what are the most, oops. There we go. Okay, so what are the most important turns? This guy right here, because it's going to be the one before the longest straightaway. So when you look at any track you want to race, that's something you want to ask yourself. And then have a plan. Practice that turn more than everything else because it's so important to nail it really, really good. Okay? Any questions on that? The other thing, I'm going to talk about one other tip, and then if people are around, we could do some racing and so forth, or some Q&A. But I'm going to show you one other thing that's an important tip. Let me load up with some NOS. So the last tip I'm going to talk about here is that it's really important to listen to the sound of the car. Okay, I like turning the music off and keeping the engine volume all the way up. Okay, and soundtrack to a minimum. By the way, it looks like, yeah, we just posted the code. The code is called Get Fast. There you go, all one word, lowercase. So everyone here is here for the code. It's Get Fast. Hang around if you want to learn how to get faster. Okay, so like I was talking about, listen to the sound of the car. What you'll notice is that if I'm turning the car hard right or left, you'll notice that the sound of the engine struggles. You don't hear it accelerate if the car is turned, okay? And that's because, and I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that, you know, Aris can chime in on this if we get him on the next call or something like that, but when a car is turned, it's not going to be able to accelerate as fast if it's going straight. So if you are turning the car itself just won't go faster. And so when I get on the throttle, I want to try to complete my turn or have the wheel as straight as possible. So you could listen to the car to let you know that, hey, I don't need this much turning to make it through that corner. Because again, the quicker I can get it straightened out, the quicker it'll accelerate. All right, so let's take this one more time. Okay, here we go. Coming in. Not too bad, but now we're hitting that one full speed, and we'll get through this, okay? Cool, so that is the idea, all right? Now, what I'm gonna do real quick is just take a couple laps and just cruise through this. Meanwhile, I am on the US server. While I'm doing a couple quick laps, if anybody has questions, you know, unmute or ask them, or Shiny or Lotine, if you guys just want to let me know what's going on in the chat, and if anybody has any questions, I'm just going to be hanging out for a sec, do a couple laps, and then we could jump on for some racing if anybody's interested. So I'll talk through this if you guys don't have any questions, but we'll see how.
We'll let you know if there's any questions in the chat.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. So the other thing that I like to focus on when I'm learning a track is practice it without NOS, okay? Because I want to first make sure that my technique is good without the worry of boost or NOS, and make sure that I'm able to hit all these apexes and attack it the way I want to, okay? So when I'm doing this, not worrying about NOS, I'm going to find out what is my best lap times without the use of NOS and use that as my foundation to then build upon. All right. Come on around here. And then I also mentally know about markers as far as what to expect. In other words, that last turn before this straightaway, if I see the clock around 47 or 48 seconds, I know I'm doing pretty good. If I'm faster than that, I'm doing awesome. And because I'm talking, I'm a little distracted, but let's see what we can do here. Again, no NOS, just trying to maximize the turns in the apex of every turn. That was sloppy. And these are the turns here where you can listen to the engine and say, hey, you can hear if it's struggling or if it's accelerating quickly. And again, the more steering radius, the more steering angle you put on it, the slower it's going to accelerate. So coming in there, I'm seeing the clock around 49, 50 seconds. So obviously I know I'm not doing great on that one. But because I'm talking and all that, it's a little bit trickier. There we go, a little bit better there. Right handle, I'm going to get on the left. Hit the apex. Physically hit the apex, which you don't want to do. All right. Oop. We'll just do this one, and then I'll jump into doing some group racing if anybody's around and wants to jump on. So we can get on Seaside on the US server, or if everybody is on a different server, let me know. I'm happy to join a different one, but and here we could use the NOS and get up to speed. So figure out where you sit with a general lap time, and then use these techniques to see how much you could shave off that time, okay? And again, when you look at the all-time fastest laps for any track, you know, we're down to the hundredths of a second to start dictating the places. So every literal hundredths of a second makes a big difference, okay? So if you look at here on the leaderboard, and we go to lap times, and we go to all time, and let's go to this track, okay?
Hey, Dirk, we do have a question.
Sure.
I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, but JWoww asks, what is the difference or advantage of using a wheel versus controller, and how big of an advantage is ping, like if he had 50 but someone else had 10 ping? I don't know if you have any insight on that.
Yeah, nice. I might not be the best to answer, but I will tell you this. As far as ping goes, you know, the lower the ping, the more responsive everything will be as far as I understand it. I'm definitely not my main focus of knowing this, but, you know, the lower the ping, the quicker everything will respond, which will obviously mean the quicker you'll get, you know, lap times. I'm not sure if having a higher ping will actually slow you down. It, as far as I know, it definitely slows down the time that you put an input versus the time it actually happens in game. If somebody else knows differently, you can let me know, but that's something to say there. As far as a wheel and pedals versus a controller, here's what I've always said. At least as far as this game goes, I do not think that a wheel and pedal necessarily makes you faster. I definitely find it way more fun, okay? And that was my goal always. In racing simulators that have very, very evolved physics, having a wheel and pedal will definitely make a difference, because you could feel every nuance, you could feel the way the car handles, and you have constant communication between what the car's doing and how it's handling, okay? We're not there yet, quite yet, with Wilder World, but I guarantee you Aris is working on that because, you know, he developed the physics for our, you know, Competizione for Assetto Corsa, and it is one of the best games out there for it. And if anybody is going to work towards getting that as good as it can, he will. So eventually, I do think that wheel and pedals will always be the way to go. I can't say that it's the faster mechanism right now. Now, again, did not come from a gaming background, so I don't have a lot of great skills with a controller, but I'm pretty sure that some of the top racers do use this controller. So now, and just to real quickly show this, you know, the top lap time here, Castor-Troy, when you start looking at the differences here, we're down to tenths, if not hundredths of a second. All right, I'm coming in at 16th on this track at 55.83. And some of these times were set on earlier builds when the physics were different. So anyways, just wanted to make that note. So what other questions you guys got? I'm going to jump into doing some races. Let's see if we can get a 4-player going. So I'm on Seaside with a 4-player, and I'm going to do a fine match. Let's see if there's people out there.
Hey, Derek. They want to know what server are you in? I'm guessing you're in Virginia.
I'm in Virginia. Is there one that works for better or for other people? Oh, there we go. Cool, cool.
Anyone else to just say hi in the chat?
All right, looks like we're loading up here, which is cool. So again, Seaside is what I like using for this example and for practicing and testing. So, but take all these examples, take this as, you know, apply it to everything that, you know, any other track, any other car. All right, let's see what happens here. So we'll do this race, and I will talk about a couple other things that we got coming up for new episodes, hopefully, and then we'll close it out. I'm going to hang on and keep racing for a bit, so if anybody else is out there, you know, we'll keep racing after this closes out. All right, and this is where it's going to be real interesting, because with 4 cars on the track, we're going to see how you don't have the luxury of the racing line like we talked about, okay? We're going to have to modify it. It is one way that if you can get in front, maybe you then have the ability to take the racing line, but keep in mind, everyone's always going to be hounding you down. So let's see what happens. And just for reference, my ping is at about 40 right now with about a 90 frames per second. I'm just so you know, my rig has a 3080 on it. All right, here we go. So notice, too, that where my starting position is, I have the shittiest racing line because I got a left-hander coming up. All right, let's see if we can catch freestyle. The other thing to consider is that when you're in a race, you're much more nervous, and it's very easy to forget about all the techniques you practice. So practicing to keep control over all the things we talked about while in a race, really important. And when you use your NOS is also obviously really important too. See if we can get him here. Oh, there we go. Now he's way to my right. Race clean, guys. It's the other thing I could say. Avoid hitting people if you can, because... There we go. Now I'm able to take the optimal racing line because I'm a little bit in front. But keep in mind, I still got to remember that he probably has NOS, so I have to be careful about where I use it. All right, looks like we got this one. Although it only takes one bad mistake to throw you off. All right, there we go. Let's see if we have enough NOS to get through the finish line. Oh, he's coming. He's coming. Oh, shit. He got me. Last second. There you go. Perfect example of how getting out of that corner, probably having a little more NOS, you know, he was able to kind of come right through me. Now, if I had my button set up to look behind, I could see maybe where he was coming up behind me and maybe block him. But that was really good. That was fun. So another thing that I want to mention about racing clean, okay? Right now, when you get damage in this game, it doesn't prohibit the way the car handles. In any other simulator, like in racing, iRacing and Assetto Corsa, the more you get banged up, the crappier your car handles, okay? And I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that comes into play very soon in newer builds. So whenever possible, avoid hitting other cars. Not only will it save on your damage, which is eventually going to cost you more money to fix, but your car will handle better, okay? Because it's just not a good technique to try to slam in people to take them out just for the sake of winning, okay? Keeping in mind, though, too, we're street racing. We don't always have the option of avoiding people. So you got to kind of come at it the right way if you can. All right, we got another tight race coming up. Let's see what happens. Oh! You see how J-Lo had to take a suboptimal line on that last one just because he didn't have the chance to take the optimal line. I'm going to preserve some NOS here. It's also important not to freak out and use NOS in areas where it makes no sense to do it. Very common thing that's kind of a nervous reaction to being behind somebody. Oh, shoot. That sucked. All right, not sure if we'll catch these guys, but let's see what we can get up to. When you're in a race, just try to stay focused on those optimal lines if you have the option to take them. Because you'd be surprised at how quickly you could start gaining more speed and more time. Because you never know when someone in front of you might make a mistake and hit a wall or do something like that. And especially if two guys are battling it out, there's a higher likelihood that they'll take each other out and allow me to kind of sneak up behind them. In this case, it's not going to happen. All right. Let's find out who took that one. All right, that was fun. And it looks like J-Lax, J-Wow, nice. Okay, guys, so super fun. That was my first session. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. In the future, one thing that I might try to do is create some goals and some medals to gamify it. So in other words, we might find a track, a certain car track combo, and have like a bronze, silver, and gold time that, you know, having some basic guidelines of things to try to achieve. So that's something I might start up in, you know, the Wilder Racing Academy. But thank you guys so much for hanging out. I'm going to hang out here and hit some more races with these guys. But yeah, if you have questions, you know, shoot me, find me on X. I think we have links to my profiles on X, on YouTube. Be sure you follow me because I'll be posting more training videos. And as we have newer options with Zero, with the app, and with membership, I'll be doing more of really fun things with the Wilder Racing Academy. And just stay tuned to when I do the next session. And if you guys have questions, topics you want me to cover for future episodes of this, let me know, all right? And, yeah, the code one more time, I think, was GETFAST, all lowercase. Cool.
Thank you so much, Derek. Amazing first event. Definitely looking forward to more from the Wilder Racing Academy.
All right. Thanks, Lotine. I'm going to hang out and keep streaming, so if you guys want to hang out, we'll be here. Let's see what happens if we get a jump on everybody. Oh! We're getting nasty.
Yeah, great show, Maduric, and I posted the link to your X account on the side, so everyone, please follow Maduric.
Thanks, Shiny. So you can tell Freestyle here is being pretty reserved to save Nas. And that's where you got to ask yourself, can I overtake him by taking a suboptimal line? And sometimes it's not possible. And that's what we're going to talk about, racecraft, which is, oh, we got somebody on my tail. Like I said, it doesn't take much to lose a lot of ground, but it also doesn't take much to gain it. There they go. They're hitting each other. Let's see if we can catch them. Save the Nas for the last straightaway. Oh, gotta hit. That's not a good line, but. All right, not gonna do it this one. We're out of Nas. All right. Let's do one more. Let's see if you guys want to jump in for another. KG, you ready to do a 4? After this one, we'll go back to the waiting room and load up for 4 people. Thanks, Chris. You are welcome, man. My pleasure. We're going to hold off on the Nas right here. One thing you have the advantage of when you're behind is you can see when people use Nas, which you could use to help gauge your own use of it. Oh! Rear-ended, but still in front. Freestyle wants it. Keeping in mind that I think the Wavon has a little bit faster acceleration than the Wambo. But again, if you have the optimal line, you have a big advantage because it's much harder for them to overtake you. So right now, J-Lo's is getting a massive advantage and lead start, but let's see if we can catch up to him. And see how much we can keep Freestyle off my tail. Oh, that shit. That sucked. There we go. J-Lo takes it. We'll see if I have enough Nas to keep Freestyle off me. Yeah, we should be good. All right. Let's go back to the lobby and load up for 4 people on this one. All right, so I'm going to return to the hub, and let's load up on 4 people. All right, see you, Lotine. All right, so custom match. Let's go back to Seaside and do 4-player. There we go. Load them up. Oh, looks like I kicked us out. Try this one more time. That was weird. All right, let's try once more.
Hey, Maduric, is it cool if I unmute some of the people we muted?
Oh, of
during the
course.
show?
Of course, yeah.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and do that. North Hill, Gandalf.
Let's see if this sucker loads. Yes, no, maybe. It might need a restart. Let's see if it loads. I think we're good. All right. Looks like we're all in here. I should have changed my car, but that's okay. All right. Let these guys battle it out. There we go. Awesome. Now we just need to maintain. One of the reasons why sometimes it doesn't hurt to lay back and let other people take each other out. So now all I got to worry about is racing clean and get through this. What I'm also going to do in this case is save my NOS until the last lap. Since I don't need it, I can tell that everybody's pretty far behind me, so I'm in the clear here. But do not underestimate how quickly someone can come up on you. Boom. There we go. We'll do one more, and then I got to bounce. Let's do a repeat. All right. Later, Ash. Let's see if they take each other out again. Oh! Let's see if we can catch KG. Oh shit. They're right on my tail. Oh, looks like they, yeah, all right, they hit the walls. So I'm clear from them. Not sure if I can catch KG, but let's try it. Oh! They're gaining up on me quick again. Do we have enough Nas to take the ending here? KG wins it. Oh shit. Out of Nas. They're coming up strong. Oh, we get in second. All right, not bad. All right, guys, that was so much fun. Maduric out. Thank you guys for joining. Keep in tune to when we launch the next one, and we'll see you out in Miami. All right, later.